These first few clips you're going to see are clips of me firing up my foundry for the first time and using it to melt aluminum. You can see the flames swirling on the top, which is exactly what you want. Kind of creates a vortex of flame, which gets it up to temperature pretty fast. Alright, this was my first attempt at melting aluminum. That's all just aluminum cans. You can see the inside of the crucible, that's the container the melted metal is in, is glowing red hot. It's because, as I will say later when I'm talking about the aluminum, it's about 1100 degrees. You can see me pouring it in there, and it's cooling incredibly fast. You can see I kind of play around with it and move it around to see what it's like when it's in its liquid form. These next few clips you're going to see are of me trying to melt brass. Brass is pretty cool because when you get it up to temperature and you touch steel to it, it actually creates green flame, so keep your eyes open for that. Yep.
And I'm pretty sure with copper, they didn't just make it flat, they actually...
Alright, this was my first attempt at melting brass. Brass is pretty cool because it's so hot. You can take a look and just see the difference in the crucible and how bright red everything is. You can also see that every time I've touched those steel tongs to the molten brass, that it's catching fire with green flames, which is awesome. Now I'm about to pour it out. And you can see already that the crucible is cooling down. It's not nearly as glowing red as it was a minute ago. As soon as I pour the brass out, you can see it melt even more. And here, I just didn't realize that I was going to have so much, so I tried to pour it out, but by the time I tried to pour it out, it had already hardened. Alright, I just want to talk a little bit about the safety precautions I'm taking. So I'm wearing all cotton, because cotton has a very high flash point, which means it doesn't catch fire very easily. And if I were wearing synthetic clothing and it got the molten metal hit it, or it got too close to flame, it could catch on fire very easily. I also have metal tongs that I'm using to pick up everything, because everything that I'm doing is incredibly hot, up to probably 1700 degrees, so instantly give you a 3rd-degree burn. And you can see I'm wearing very thick insulated leather gloves, so I don't burn myself. Alright, now I want to talk to you about some of the different things I'm melting. So first we have aluminum right here. This is probably the most common metal, very easy to find. This one is actually made of soda cans that I melted down. And aluminum's great because of the various types of metal, aluminum has one of the lower melting points. It's only about 1100 to 1200 degrees, which sounds like a lot, but for metals, that's very low. There's only a handful of them that have a lower melting point, like zinc or gallium. But aluminum's really great because, as I said, it's very common, it's easy to manipulate, it's really easy to melt down and pour into different types of molds and make different things with it. Alright, next I want to talk about brass. Brass is a pretty cool metal because, one, I think it's kind of pretty. It has some cool designs in it after you cast it. You can see the little cracks on the top there. It's a very heavy metal, especially when you compare it to the aluminum. This feels like nothing. This is about twice as heavy, even though they're pretty close to the same size. Now, brass is made up of 2 different kinds of metal. It's made up of zinc, which is what modern pennies are made out of, and it's made up of copper, which is what pennies used to be made out of. when you mix them together, you're able to create brass. This one, however, I made from melting down an old faucet. Its melting temperature is around 16 to 1700 degrees, so very hot, much hotter than the aluminum. And next we're going to talk about copper. Lastly, we have copper. This is some copper that I actually found at school when going on a walk with the Panthers. And I have not been able to melt down copper yet because copper has a very high melting point. It's at just under 2000 degrees Fahrenheit, so very hot. So I'm hoping to be able to upgrade my foundry so I'll be able to melt this and see what kind of stuff we can make.